Mill threw out my birth control because she wanted grandbabies ASAP. She literally went through my stuff to force a pregnancy on us. I don't even know where to begin with this one. I'm absolutely livid and honestly, still processing everything that's happened over the last few weeks. I need to get this off my chest, so here it goes. I've been married to my husband for 2 years now. We're in our late 20s, and while we love each other deeply, we've always made it clear that we weren't in any rush to have children. We've talked about starting a family one day, but we agreed that it would be after we've settled into our careers, maybe when we've traveled more, and when we feel emotionally and financially ready. It was a mutual decision, one that made sense for both of us. Now, here's where things take a turn. A few weeks ago, my husband and I had been staying at his mother's house for a weekend visit. My Mill, let's call her Linda, has always been a bit overbearing, but I've tried to let it slide because I know she means well. She's one of those people who's always trying to insert herself into every decision we make, whether it's about where we vacation, what car we buy, or even what we eat for dinner. But, until recently, I could ignore it for the most part because I figured it was just her way of showing love. However, during this trip, things got weird. I had brought my birth control pills with me, as I always do. And I had placed them in my bag in our room. It's a small thing, but I had a routine of keeping my medication with me for peace of mind. Well, the night before we were supposed to leave, I noticed that my birth control was missing. I searched through my bag, then through my husband's things, but there was no sign of it. I thought I was just being paranoid. But when I mentioned it to my husband, he seemed confused, too. He told me to check the bathroom, but when I did, I found the pills in the trash. I was absolutely stunned. My first reaction was disbelief. Why would anyone do that? How could someone be so invasive? I confronted my husband right away. He was furious, too. And he couldn't believe his mother would go that far. We tried to think of any possible explanation, but the more we talked about it, the more it became clear. Linda had gone through my personal stuff to get rid of my birth control. And when we asked her about it the next morning, she didn't even deny it. She simply shrugged and said, "I just thought it was time for you two to start trying for a baby. You've been married long enough, and I need grandkids before it's too late." At first, I couldn't even respond. It felt like she had violated me in the worst way possible. I mean, what kind of mother-in-law goes through her daughter-in-law's personal belongings and takes such drastic action because she thinks she knows what's best for the couple? My husband was beside himself. But Linda didn't seem to understand why we were so upset. She went on to say that she was doing this because she loved us and wanted to see us start a family. Her tone was so casual. Like it was perfectly normal to invade my privacy and make decisions about my body. We were both furious. I asked her, "How could you possibly think it was okay to do something like that?" And she just responded, "I'm doing this for you. You'll thank me later." After some tense back and forth, my husband told her that she needed to respect our boundaries and that what she did was completely unacceptable. Linda, of course, wasn't thrilled about being called out. She gave a half-hearted apology, but it was clear she didn't think she had done anything wrong. She made a few more comments about how great it would be to have grandkids, and honestly, it made my blood boil. She seemed completely oblivious to the fact that her actions weren't just intrusive, they were controlling. We left shortly after and I have been fuming ever since. I don't know how to deal with her anymore. Update. The following weeks were a mix of awkwardness and frustration. My husband and I tried to put the incident behind us, but things didn't settle the way I had hoped. Linda continued to drop passive-aggressive comments about us, waiting too long to start a family. It was uncomfortable and made every family gathering a bit of a nightmare. My husband and I had a long conversation about what happened, and he assured me that he was on my side. He admitted that he had been shocked by his mother's behavior, and he promised to set stronger boundaries with her going forward. I wanted to believe him, but honestly, the damage had been done. We ended up having another talk with Linda. This time, it was just the three of us. My husband told her that her actions were unacceptable and that we would not tolerate any further pressure about having children. He also emphasized that our decision to have kids, or not have kids, was ours to make and that she needed to respect our autonomy. She didn't take it well, but after a heated exchange, she reluctantly apologized. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was just saying the words to get us to drop the issue. She still acted like she didn't fully understand why her actions were wrong. I don't feel safe around her. And thanks for the commenter that warned me about tampering the food to make birth control ineffective. I think I will ask my doctor for an IUD. Second update. Months passed, and it seemed like things were improving until recently. Linda's obsession with grandchildren has only grown worse. It's as though she can't let go of the idea that she's entitled to a say in our family planning. Whenever we visit, she makes subtle and sometimes not so subtle comments about how great it would be if we had a baby soon. At family gatherings, the topic inevitably comes up, and she guilt trips both of us. Especially me. She even had the nerve to tell me that it's a woman's job to give her husband children. I was speechless when I heard that, but my husband didn't know how to respond either. Things have gotten even more complicated because I can see my husband struggling with the situation. He doesn't want to upset his mother, but he also wants to support me. I know he's trying to walk the line between keeping peace with his mom and standing up for our relationship, but it's been hard for him. I hate that it's putting pressure on him. And I feel like I'm losing my patience. It's affecting our relationship, and I hate that it's becoming a source of stress between us. I'm seriously considering therapy to work through all the emotional baggage this has brought up. I'm tired of feeling like my body and my choices aren't respected. I'm tired of feeling like I have to justify our decisions to someone who doesn't have a right to make them. I just want peace in my marriage, but I also need my boundaries to be respected. I don't know what the future holds with Linda, but I do know that I'm not going to let her dictate our lives, especially when it comes to something as personal as having children. I just hope my husband can continue supporting me as we deal with this, because at the end of the day, we're the ones who need to make these decisions, not her. Final update. I wish I could say things got better after the last update, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Linda's behavior has only escalated. Despite the clear boundaries we set, she's kept up the pressure, almost to the point of obsession. Every time we see her, it's the same thing. Subtle jabs about how grandkids would complete the family, or time's running out for you too. It's constant, and it's exhausting. I've tried to stay calm, tried to brush it off, but honestly, it's starting to wear me down. Every visit feels like a battle, and every phone call ends with her reminding us of how much she wants grandkids. She even went as far as to send me a link to some article about how delaying children can be detrimental for women's health. I was furious. I could see how much this was affecting my husband, too. He's always been very close to his mom, but even he was starting to crack under the pressure. We had multiple talks about what to do, and while he's been supportive of my wishes, I could tell he was struggling with the idea of cutting ties with his mom completely. He didn't want to lose that connection with her, but at the same time, he knew how much stress she was causing me. Finally, after a particularly tense family gathering where Linda once again pushed the issue, my husband had enough. He pulled Linda aside for a private conversation. And from the moment he started talking, I could tell this was different. He was firm and resolute, and he told her that this had gone on long enough. He said, "Mom, we've talked about this before. And I've asked you to respect our boundaries. You cannot keep pressuring us to have a baby. If you keep pushing, we will have to cut contact with you. And when we do, you won't even know whether or not you'll ever have a grandchild. We're not going to tolerate this any longer. The ultimatum was harsh, but at this point, I think it was the only way to make her understand the gravity of the situation. Linda was silent for a moment, and I could see the shock in her eyes. She didn't expect him to actually go this far. For a brief second, I thought she might get defensive, or even try to guilt-trip him, but instead, she just stood there, wide-eyed. After a few moments, she sighed and muttered something about wanting what's best for us, but the fight had gone out of her. She didn't apologize, but she knew my husband meant business. Since then, there's been radio silence from her, which is a relief, but at the same time, it feels incredibly tense. I'm happy that my husband finally stood up for me in our relationship. But it's hard to say where we go from here. I know Linda's hurt, but at this point, I can't keep pretending that it's okay for her to continually disrespect our decisions. The future of our relationship with her is uncertain, but right now, we have to prioritize our peace and our marriage. It's just sad that it had to come to this.